There it is right now. There it is. It had the microphone turned off as we were doing some buttons up here. So let's crank this up again and welcome everybody to the American Space Museum. I'm Mark Marquette. We're so glad that you're with us to stay curious on this first week of April. Of course, next Monday is the Great American Eclipse, and I'm taking some time off this week, so we'll be running some reruns of Stay Curious. We've got Bert Dick coming in to do a show on Thursday. Next Tuesday, we've got Steve Agid coming in and doing a program for us, and the rest of them, I'll have Marty and I will pick out some reruns for you to watch of Stay Curious, as I'm going to be on the road, but we'll probably have Flat Mark show up once in a while, okay, as we're going down the road. Who knows, Marty? Maybe we'll just call in and we can talk a little bit about the pending eclipses. I'm going up to Ohio to celebrate it with my 91-year-old mother in Findlay, Ohio. That's my big bang for everything that started out space, so I definitely want to be there. We're going to talk a little bit about space history today. The picture behind me here, the green screen, is of the McDonnell Douglas facility in St. Louis, where they're building the spacecrafts for Gemini there. We're going to talk about why we put that up there and show a beautiful picture here of our Gemini gallery as we are this is our Space Walk of Fame, U.S. Space Walk of Fame Gemini monument area there with those pavers all have astronauts' handprints and bronze on top of them there. Our way of saying that we're a proud nonprofit. If you find a way to support us financially, you can go to our website, and there's all kinds of easy ways to do that. So, yesterday was April 1st, so I got to throw in the famous shuttle landing at the Bristol Motor Speedway about 12 years ago. And Bristol had their racetrack event last week. They certainly didn't get this amount of people there, that's for sure, to do a card stunt and all. But just a way of pulling an April Fool's on you, though it was Sunday. We've had some fun with that over our 4 years of broadcasting with you. This does begin our 4th anniversary with Marty Winkle, my co-producer there. So, Marty, good to see you there. And April Fools, right? Anybody play any April Fools on you, Marty?
No, I think they're afraid to.
There you go. Absolutely. Well, we've got an astronaut who was born on April 1st, okay? And that astronaut is right there, Bill Fisher. Happy 78th birthday to Bill Fisher, an American physician and an astronaut specialist for 11 years. Was married to astronaut Anna Fisher until the year 2000. We've seen Anna out to Space Center. One flight, 7 days in space. That was 51I. Bill Fisher was born April 1st, 1946 in Dallas, Texas. He went to high school, though, in Syracuse, New York. So born in Texas, but Syracuse, New York also claims him. Attended Stanford and then the University of Florida. Selected as an astronaut in 1980. There he is with his wife of the time, Anna Fisher, in the Zero-G Vomit Comet. In 1985, August 85, 51, I was the 20th flight and 6th of Discovery and was acknowledged as one of the most successful missions flown to date. Fisher was one of the pioneering EVA astronauts, 2 spacewalks with to repair a satellite. So this was when, in 1985, the shuttle was going to be a truck that was going to pay for itself. So let's see. Anna Lee Fisher and Bill got married August 23rd, 1977, and have 2 daughters. So, of course, they're grown now. Well, Marty, you've been seeing some of those noisy rocket launches. Oh, I wanted to say something else about Fisher here in this old man picture of him there when he was a physician. He collects Bill Graham Fillmore and Family Dog and other rock concert music posters. and he's a luthier. He makes, repairs, and finishes Napoleon-style mandolins. So quite a Renaissance guy. He also uh, created a fireworks company back in the day. So Bill Fisher, hope you're having a good 78th birthday, born April 1st. Well, we had a big series of 2 rocket launches on Saturday, Marty, or Sunday, I mean, and then we had another one on the West Coast. That these Falcon 9 rockets just going off every 3 days almost here on our Space Coast, and then over on Vandenberg. So they had 3 in one day on Sunday. That made 63rd orbital launches around the world for 2024. And for SpaceX, this was their 332nd mission. The 32nd mission for SpaceX in 2024. They had, that ties what they did in the year 2020, I think. The 318th time a Falcon 9 was launched, and the 302nd time they recovered that booster. Incredible history there, Marty. Pardon me?
Put the mic closer.
Oh, put the mic closer. Okay, here. We put it on a... That's why we're a little late there. Sorry about that. Or watching me walk. There you go. Get that in front of me. So, Marty, it's just amazing. We're living in the rocket renaissance here, the new space age. 302 times these Falcon 9 rockets have been recovered. The one that was launched here in Vandenberg Sunday night, it was the 15th for that one. A lot of them, SpaceX thinks it might be able to get 40 launches out of one of these rockets, and they were going to retire them after 10, and they've got several that have gone 18 and 19 flights. So, and we're going to be seeing more and more as there's over 5,000 Starlink satellites orbiting the Earth, and Elon Musk has the approval from the FAA to orbit another 10,000. So over 5,000 in operation. And Marty, they are doing good around the world, getting internet capabilities in remote sites around the world, and they're paying for themselves. Well, a little bit of space history. NACA, the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics, was a United States federal agency founded in March 1915 to undertake, promote, and institutionalize aeronautical research. Now, it was founded just 10 years after the Wright brothers' famous flight at Kitty Hawk. But President Eisenhower, on this date, in April 2nd, 1958, informed Congress that we needed to move forward from the NACA. The NACA afterwards, there's Eisenhower with the first NASA director, Keith Glennon, in 1960, looking at some Tyros weather satellite photos, very groundbreaking for them to show up there at the Oval Office. So Eisenhower informed Congress that we should propose the establishment of a new agency, the National Aeronautics and Space Agency, which the NACA would absorb. And there's the other NACA, their official emblem had the Wright brothers flyer on there. All right. And from 1915 to 1958, it was tasked with supervise and direct the scientific study of the problems of flight with a view to their practical solution. This was when it was founded in 1915. The practical solution had already been met in 1958 with worldwide aviation companies flying people to their destinations. Business travel had become popular on a lot of prop planes flying around. So NASA was formed in October 1958, officially on October 1st, after the first suggestion of it on this date, April 2nd, 1958, by President Dwight Eisenhower there with NASA's first administrator, Keith Glennon. And now you know. Well, there's the symbol for Mercury, And the Mercury astronomy sign does not have the 7 in it. Mercury, the swift Greek god, and of course it made sense to call maybe the first astronauts, the first NASA program, Mercury. And there on this date, April 2nd, 1959, these 7 men were chosen from 110 military officers to break the bonds of Earth and go to space. And we know that they all did just that. Up at the top left, Wally Schirra. Below Wally is John Glenn, Deke Slayton, and sitting down are Deke Slayton left, Gus Grissom in the center, Alan Shepard, and then above Alan Shepard is Scott Carpenter and Gordon Cooper above him up there. They, of course, became immediately our space heroes, and all are passed away now. Okay, actually, Glenn was the last one to die about 4 years ago, at age 95. The qualifications were jet pilot with a minimum of 15 hours of flight, 10 years experience. You had to be under 40 years old, under 6 feet in height, excellent physical condition. And they took the first 110 and moved that group down to 35. Okay. And then they called in, those finalists were found, and they really wanted 6, but they found no way to get rid of the 7th one. And so they kept him. So Slayton, by the way, waited 16 years to fly as he was grounded due to a heart murmur. Of course, Alan Shepard on the far right, sitting down, our first American in space. He then had Meniere's disease, a hearing imbalance that medically got fixed, and he is the only one of the 7 to walk on the moon as commander of Apollo 14. And of course, Gus Grissom in the center there died in the Apollo 204 tragedy on January 27, 1967. So this date in history in 1958, all right, 56 years ago, these men were selected today, in 1959, I'm sorry, on April 2nd. 59 is when the world first heard about we had astronauts, astro being the Greek for star traveler, astronaut, so appropriately named there, and the rest took off. Now, this was such a big deal 57 years ago, or 56 years ago, we're talking about, in 1959, 55 years ago, double nickel, that's why we're promoting it today. 55 years ago, these men were unknown, and they become instantly American heroes. You knew about their families, their wives, their kids, all within the space of just a couple years. Well, yes, Marty.
65 years.
65 years. Yeah, I said 55. 65 years. Having a lot of brain problems today here. Getting wound up on a getaway week. So, McDonnell Aircraft Corporation, later become McDonnell Douglas in St. Louis, become the builders of the first spacecraft for America, the Mercury and the Gemini. And on this date in space history, it was chosen that the contract for McDonnell was finalized for the 2-man Gemini spacecraft. NASA announced the final signing on April 2nd, 1963, an estimated cost of $428 million. Okay. $500 million in 1963. That was basically probably closer to $5 billion in today's money. The contract called for a 13 flight-rated spacecraft, 12 to be used in space flight and 1 for ground testing. Of course, they would have simulators, a docking trainer, 5 boiler plates, and other static articles for vibration and impact ground tests there. So the final contract signed with McDonnell, you people in the St. Louis area know the impact that this had on your community up there. And here's a rare picture in that St. Louis facility of what was proposed to be the Gemini Big G. the Gemini two-man spacecraft on the front was going to have on the back side of it a little taxi, if you will, space to take 2 to maybe even 6 astronauts up to space. Of course, they need a bigger booster than the Titan to do that. But this was a real proposal, particularly during the manned orbiting laboratory years of NASA, when we were going to have a spy laboratory and do some science on it too, with Gemini spacecraft docked to it and people passing into the cylinder type of space lab, manned orbiting laboratory, the mole. They passed through it through a hatch in the heat shield that would, of course, have to be buttoned up. And they actually flew a Gemini spacecraft twice with that heat shield to test it, and it worked just fine. So, big day in space history for McDonnell Douglas and everybody in St. Louis as they got the contract for 10 flights that were made in 1965 and 66. Every 6 weeks, 2 astronauts went up to space to test out the systems that were necessary to go to the moon. And by 1968, everybody was having moon fever, and the science was right. Everyone was thinking about going to space with the Mercury programs and the Gemini programs behind us, and heading into the Apollo missions. And then 1968, on April 2nd, 1968, this movie, 2001, A Space Odyssey, had its world premiere at the Upton Theater in downtown Washington, D.C. 2.5 hours long, all right? Produced and directed by the great director Stanley Kubrick, and written by science fiction icon Arthur C. Clarke. This film is widely regarded as the greatest and most influential films ever made. It's up there in the top 5 in a lot of people for sure. 2001 and 1968, Marty, seemed like just so far into the future. And here we are in 2024, and none of this has happened. None of this has become true. All right, it's still science fiction. But the screen, let's just brag about it a little bit. There it is, the Space Odyssey at the Capitol Theater in Washington, D.C. Here's the Arthur C. Clarke. This was based on one of his short stories, The Sentinel. Arthur C. Clarke, one of the most premier of all forward-thinking science fiction writers. He envisioned the space stations, geosynchronous orbits for satellite communications was his idea. He wrote a seminal book on all of that. The theatrical posters were created by legendary space artist Robert McCall. There's one of his masterpieces there. Basically, the film follows a voyage to Jupiter with computer HAL after the discovery on Earth's moon of an alien monolith affecting human evolution. So the themes of this movie are way out there. Human evolution, artificial intelligence, extraterrestrial life. Of course, the film stars were Keir Dullea and Gary Lockwood, and the renegade computer HAL, H-A-L, which is an acronym for the people who built it. That was a very interesting twist of science fiction, was having a computer, and the computer only shown by the red eye of it making an astounding contribution and being the villain of this movie. All right, here's the Capitol premiere there. Cost to make it in 1968 was $12 million, a lot of money back then, okay? Probably put a zero behind that, and that'd be $120 million in 1968 in today's money. $12 million was a tremendous amount of money on a bill. But the box office revenues poured in, and it was $146 million. All right, this movie was one of the greatest blockbusters of all time. Noted for its scientifically accurate depictions of spaceflight, pioneering special effects, and ambiguous imagery. There is a 5-minute segment in this that's just a space collage of light and sound. In the composers like Richard Strauss, Johann Strauss, and others, classical composers were used throughout this movie. Very, very groundbreaking at the time. Nominated for 4 Academy Awards, Kubrick won for his direction of visual effects. And it is still called by many organizations the best science fiction of all time by any of the societies like Online Film Critics and so forth. Even Rolling Stone magazine named it the best science fiction movie of all time. So definitely up here. It is very. It's not a movie that you're going to understand seeing it right out of the chute, and in fact, some people were very critical of it at the time, including Hollywood actors. I'm trying to think of the one actor that walked out. Not one of the A-list actors walked out going, "What the hell was I just watching?" type of thing. So you had to be invested in it to watch 2001: A Space Odyssey. Marty, you got a comment?
We have a comment from Steve Jokum. He says, while science fiction has always inspired the next generation of visionaries, it has a poor track record of predicting the future. I think that actually could be debated a little bit.
Yes, that's a good point, Steve. The future predicted in 2001 was going to be settlements mining on the moon, which was all very feasible. Maybe if Werner von Braun had his way, we would have landed on Mars by the end of 2001. But science fact sometimes is stranger than science fiction. And that's the case when we're talking about Hubble telescope and Webb telescope discoveries, as we're discovering things that, quite frankly, are challenging the last 100 years of astrophysics. So good point, Steve. There are a lot of movies that science fiction that we'll never catch up to, and this is probably one of them. It was envisioned that space stations would be a big wheel to create gravity, natural gravity out there. We've tested it in space with different spacecraft on tethers and so forth, so we know we can create that, yet we still stick to the cylinders, okay, and haven't created artificial gravity. And our bodies have taken a toll on it. So thank you for contributing, Steve. Well, we thought we'd then stay curious today with a little flashback of what also was going on a year ago, is we were entertaining this gentleman, Jack Lausma, Skylab 2 astronaut, and then landed on March 30th or 31st on STS-3 in White Sands with Gordon Fullerton. There he is. Karan Conklin's on the left, Charlie Mars, our godfather, on the right, and there you are, Marty, as Jack was telling us some stories outside our studio here. We need to have the camera rolling when he tells stories, I guarantee you that. And then he walked around the museum and checked out the wind screen on one of our, that was donated to us, one of the shuttle window panes in there. And I remember his comment was, it sure looked a lot smaller in space looking out that window than it does here. So Mark Usiak, thank you for watching. I know he's getting excited. He's going up to Niagara Falls to get his eclipse picture. Doug Forrest, Gary Gerald, Dave Stange, Carlton Bailey, and Bill Whiting all watching and staying curious today, and we sure do appreciate that. And bear with us this week, as we'll have some reruns and the shows that we're doing live. I'll pop in once in a while on the phone with our Flat Mark. Let me get Flat Mark out there, Marty, since he's right there. People remember the old days of Flat Mark here. Okay, there we go. Where am I at? Oh, I'm pushing the wrong buttons. All right, so Flat Mark might appear up from the road as I'll be calling in Marty and helping out our guests, or we will be doing a program that will be just a rerun, and we've got plenty of those with 1,023rd episodes after this issue today. Most of them on YouTube and the first half of them on Facebook. So we're going to pick out some greatest hits. Everybody loves reruns, and we want you to see a couple great editions of guests that we've had on here as I take an eclipsing vacation up there. So stay abreast of Facebook. Marty, I'm not going to show that last image. That'll be us done for today. As I thank everybody for staying curious with us today, and a little bit exciting to hit the road and go and see some friends, as well as just a long distance travel. But I'll keep in touch with y'all, so you all keep in touch with me, as I will be reporting with Marty down the road here. So until next time, everybody, have a great week here, the first week of April. Make your plans for the eclipse. Make plans just to enjoy it. Don't get obsessed with the photography. I've not done any shows on the eclipse because it's just simply, there's so much information out there. I just be reiterating it. But I'll give you some info from the road as we go up to Tennessee and the Ohio to see this great American eclipse, 4 minutes of darkness during the middle of the day. So until next time I see you on the road, I'm Mark Marquette saying, stay curious, and I'll see you again to bridge the space between us.